You know that feeling when your phone buzzes on a Friday afternoon? It is the notification, the one we are all secretly waiting for. It says your direct deposit hit. You see that number, maybe it is $3,400, maybe it is $4,200, and for a split second, you feel invincible. You think, okay, this is it. I have finally made it. I'm going to save, I'm going to invest, I'm going to get ahead this month. You run the mental math and you figure that after rent and bills, you should have, I do not know, maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500 left over. It feels good. It feels safe, but then something weird happens. Fast forward 2 weeks. You're logging into your banking app, sweat kind of pricking on your forehead, and you stare at the balance. It is not zero, thank God, but it is shockingly low. Maybe there is $42 left. Maybe you actually had to dip into the credit card for groceries because the checking account ran dry a little too soon. And you are standing there holding your phone, just completely confused. You ask yourself, where did it go? I mean, you did not buy a yacht. You did not go to Vegas, you just lived. You paid for the car, the apartment, the food, the weekend hangouts. It feels like a magic trick, except instead of a rabbit coming out of a hat, your money just vanishes into thin air. My name is Jack, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. I have been down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out why a salary that used to be considered wealthy, or at least upper middle class, suddenly feels like it is barely enough to keep the lights on. And the truth is, it is not just because eggs got expensive or rent is high. There is something deeper going on. A psychological trap that snaps shut the moment your income crosses that six-figure threshold. It is a shift in how you view yourself, how you view time, and unfortunately, how you view value. If you have ever wondered why making more money does not automatically equal having more money, stick around. Because we are about to dissect exactly why your $100,000 salary might actually be the thing keeping you broke. So let us get into it. The first thing we have to talk about is the single most dangerous phenomenon in personal finance, especially for high earners. It is not a bad investment, it is not a scam, and it is not a sudden market crash. It is something much quieter. It is called lifestyle creep. And I know, you hear about this all the time. Every finance YouTuber talks about it. Do not upgrade your lifestyle, they say. But when it happens to you, it does not feel like creep. It does not feel like you are being greedy or foolish. It feels completely justified. Here is what it looks like in real life. Let us say you were making $65,000 a year. You drove a 2012 Honda Civic. It was fine. It had a dent in the bumper, and the AC made a weird rattling noise when you went over 60 miles per hour. But it got you from A to B. You lived in a one-bedroom apartment that was, let us be honest, a little cramped. The kitchen was basically a closet, and you could hear your neighbor sneezing through the walls. But you made it work. Then you get the new job. The big offer. $100,000 a year. You sign the papers, you feel great. A month goes by. You are driving to work in that Honda, and the AC starts rattling again. And a little voice in your head says, why am I putting up with this? I make 6 figures now. I am a professional. I should not have to listen to this rattle. So you go to the dealership. You do not buy a supercar. You are reasonable. You buy a slightly used SUV or a nice sedan. Something with leather seats. Something that does not rattle. The payment is $500 a month. You think, I can afford $500. That is nothing compared to the raise I just got. Then you look at your apartment. You are walking up the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator is broken again, carrying your groceries, and you think, I am too old for this. I work hard. I deserve to come home to a place that feels peaceful. So you find a nicer place? It has got a gym. It has got a parking spot. It is $1,000 more a month than your old rent. But again, you do the math. With the raise, you can swing it, and then the small stuff starts to shift. You stop looking at the price of groceries. You used to buy the generic cereal, now you buy the brand name. You used to pack a lunch every day, now hey, you are stressed, you are busy, you deserve a treat. You grab a $15 salad, you start subscribing to every streaming service. You get a dog walker. You upgrade your phone plan. Individually, none of these decisions seem crazy. In fact, they all feel logical. You are rewarding yourself for your hard work. But when you zoom out, you see the problem. Your old lifestyle cost you, say, $4,000 a month. Your new lifestyle, with the better car, the better apartment, and the better lunches, costs $5,500 a month. If your take-home pay from that $100,000 job is roughly $6,000 a month, do the math. You have gone from saving money at $65,000 to living paycheck to paycheck, $100,000. You feel richer because your stuff is better, but your balance sheet is actually weaker. You are running faster on the treadmill, but you are not moving an inch. That is the trap. You think you upgraded your life, but you actually just upgraded your expenses to match your income, which brings me to the second point. And this one is a bit more psychological. It is about the company you keep and the invisible pressure of social comparison. When you start earning $100,000, your environment often changes. You might get a new job in a nicer part of town. You start hanging out with colleagues who are also making that money or maybe more. And this is where the subtle corrosion happens. Let me tell you a story about a guy I knew. Let us call him Dave. Dave was like a lot of us. He was frugal when he was younger, but once he hit six figures, he started hanging out with a crew that was all about experiences. One Friday, they are sitting around at happy hour, $18 cocktails. By the way, and someone says, hey, we should all go to Sabio for a weekend in 3 months. Just a quick guy's trip. Now, Dave looks at his bank account. He knows that a trip to Sabio with flights and the hotel and the food and the nightlife is going to cost him at least $2,000. He knows he should probably save that money. He is trying to build an emergency fund. He has got student loans, but he looks around the table. Everyone else is nodding. Yeah, CBO, let us do it. They pull out their phones and start looking at Airbnbs. And Dave feels this tightening in his chest. He thinks, if I say no, I am the broke one. I am the one who cannot hang. I make the same amount of money they do. Why cannot I afford this? So he says yes. He puts the flights on a credit card, telling himself he will pay it off when the bonus comes in. And the trip is fun, sure. But the debt lingers. This is what I call the money faux pas fear. We are terrified of looking poor in front of our peers, even if our peers are just as broke as we are. We engage in what economists call conspicuous consumption, spending money we do not have to signal wealth that we do not actually possess, just to fit in. The tragedy is that the people you are trying to impress, they are doing the exact same thing. They are looking at you buying a round of drinks and thinking, man, Jack is balling, I better keep up. It is a circular firing squad of finances. Everyone is spending to impress everyone else, and everyone ends up with less money. When you make $100,000, you are often thrust into a social circle where the baseline for spending is higher. The standard birthday gift becomes $100 instead of $30. The standard dinner becomes $80 a head instead of $30. If you do not consciously opt out of this game, and it is hard to opt out because it feels like social suicide, you will bleed money. You are not spending on things you love. You are spending on a social persona to avoid the embarrassment of saying, that is not in my budget right now. And speaking of budgets, that leads me to the third major reason you stay broke, the illusion of safety. There is a dangerous psychological shift that happens around the $100,000 mark. When you are making $40,000 or $50,000, you are constantly vigilant. You know you are one broken transmission away from disaster. You check your balance every day. You know exactly how much is in your checking account down to the penny. Because you have to. But when you cross that six-figure line, a false sense of security settles in. You start thinking, even if I mess up, I make enough to fix it. You stop tracking your daily spending because you figure, as long as I do not buy a Ferrari, I am fine. but it is the death by 1,000 cuts. You stop looking at the subscription charges. You stop noticing that you are paying $200 a month for a gym you go to twice. You stop noticing that your grocery bill has doubled because you are buying pre-chopped vegetables and fancy cheese. I fell into this trap myself. Honestly, a few years ago, I had a great year income-wise. I stopped using a budgeting app because I thought, I am good. I know how this works. I just swipe my card for everything. Fast forward 6 months, I'm doing my taxes and I'm looking at my credit card statements. I'm scrolling, and I'm seeing charges for Amazon, Uber Eats, random subscriptions, hardware store runs for projects I never finished. I added it all up. I have blown through an extra $800 a month on nothing. I mean, literally nothing tangible. No assets, no memories. Just friction. Just laziness. When you make $100,000, you have a bigger margin for error, and that margin allows you to be lazy with your money. At a lower income, the friction of poverty forces you to be attentive. At $100,000,